When you're searching to buy an RV, there's only two options. There's the dealer and there's the seller. And I've done both. Stay tuned. In today's video, I'm going to give you my experiences with both of these. The dealer is going to make it super easy for you. They're going to entice you with so many great things. They're going to give you warranties. They're going to lure you in with good advertising. They're also going to handle all the financing for you, which makes it super sweet because you think you don't have to put in so much money up front. But there's always going to be a problem in the end because there's always fees at the end when you purchase. And that's one thing that I don't like when I go to a dealer, that they tell me one thing and then I end up paying a totally different price at the end when I have everything is said and done. These fees are usually just markups that they create in order to make more money on commissions and more money that they get back for their dealership. It's going to all add up in the end. They're always going to buy cheap and sell high. And they're usually around looking for cheap RVs. Just like you can go out looking for a cheap RV, they go out and look for cheap RVs. People who need to sell right now, they need to get rid of it. And they're don't have a lien and they just want to be able to sell it and get rid of it. And this is where dealers come in, but you could do the same exact things that dealers do. One of my experiences that I had recently with an RV was that we went to the dealer with cash. We told them we had cash, we were ready to buy. And I had seen this really nice RV that they were advertising. And of course, it's never there when you go there. It was a beautiful RV for the right price, but it's never there when you show up. And then when I told them that I was going to pay cash, they ended up taking me to the worst RVs possible. And they were expensive for what I saw. There were paint marks, dripping paint marks. They smelled like cigarette smoke. They looked like they had leaked at some point. The original furniture wasn't there. They were missing furniture. There was damage in the RV. And they were telling me that, you know, this is what I could buy with cash, with the cash that I had with me. And I realized later on that what they were trying to sell me was the RVs that they could not finance. And whenever somebody comes in with cash, they try to show you the worst RVs because they need to get rid of these RVs. They've been sitting there for way too long. They can't finance them. The bank will not finance them. They probably have some kind of damage or something in there. And they're hoping also that you're not going to run an inspection. So if you're a woman, they're going to look you up and down and they're going to say, you know what, I don't think she's going to do an inspection. I don't think she's going to check this. She looks like she's needing, especially, you know, if you come there like I did, a woman with two people that don't speak a lot of English, they are going to, you know, size you up and they're going to think, oh, these people are not going to, they're not going to do their due diligence and get an inspection or anything like that. So, you know, and the other thing is, there's a lot of effort that goes into this. If you're buying an RV, you're spending a lot of time. You're driving back. You're going to pay. If you're going to pay for an inspector, you got to pay them. That costs you money. So you want to make sure that you buy something that's right. You don't want to deal with a dealer that's trying to rip you off. In other words, if the dealer knows that there's been water damage and now you pay an inspector to inspect it, you're going to lose the money if you don't follow through with the purchase, right? So, and how many more of those can you do? So this is why it's important that you know what you're doing. When you go into an RV, you know exactly, you've looked at it, you've done your own inspections. You see the pricing, you see all the paperwork up front before you go any further with this. You have to show them that you're there to mean business and you're not going to tolerate them showing you product like that because you have cash. They really make their money most on financing. And that's why I decided that the dealership was not for me. Most of these dealers, they're going to make their money off the commission and the financing and then also selling you warranties and insurances as well. And that's why at the end, you're going to pay for so much. Of course, they're giving you financing, so they're going to make it a sweet deal for you. There's also extra things that they tack on like documentation fees, prep fees and inspection charges as well. A lot of these RVs have been sitting there for a long time, and especially these that are not able to be financed by the banks. They've been sitting on their lots for a long time and there's no carport, there's no covering over them. They're sitting there and they've got damages on them. There's no maintenance on these RVs. And the bigger the dealer, the worse it is because they just don't have the manpower to be maintaining all of these RVs. Some of these RVs, if you look at them closely with like a magnifying lens, when you go inside, look at them. If they've been repainted inside, they're painted really badly. They smell like cigarettes. It smells really bad. Or you have to go inside. If you smell something moldy or musty, probably there's been some kind of water damage. You also want to check the RV to see if there's anything like that's bubbly, or the walls are strained, or there's kind of soft spots in there. You want to be able to look for something like that. This is like a pre-inspection that you have to do a walkthrough and look at this. I remember years ago when I went to look at a truck camper at a dealership, and I noticed that it had a soft spot on it. And the minute I saw the soft spot, I mean, the guy was like, he didn't even want to show it to me anymore, because they needed to sell it for a certain price. And if you saw the soft spot, they're not willing to negotiate anymore. They just want to, there's always people out there that are gullible. They will buy it. There's always people out there that are willing to buy it. Don't let it be you, the one that's going to buy a damaged RV. The other problem with the dealer is that it's not at the hookups. There's no hookups when you're checking it out. And usually they have to roll it out and put it there. You can check it the day of inspection, and then who knows how many things you're going to find that day. And that's going to be a problem. But what I like to do is I like to be able to go with the seller and be able to see the RV and have it in a hookup already. When I purchased my truck camper and the fifth wheel, they were both hooked up, and I was able to do a look through of everything. Before you leave a deposit and before you leave with the contract, read it very well so you understand it. Don't say, I'm going to read it when I get home or anything like that. Make sure that you read it and understand it there. Bring somebody with you, perhaps, because a lot of times these people are talking to you and they don't let you read the contract, or say to them, look, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to read the contract. I need to be alone for a while. I need to read it, because they're going to try to get you to not really pay attention to the contract. There's a lot of little things in that contract that you need to be reading and understanding. And also understand what your options are if there is an inspection that goes bad. If you have somebody inspect it, what are your options if you do sign the contract? You want to be able to get out of this contract if your inspector says that this is a bad RV and you shouldn't be buying it. Delays by the dealer for inspection. So let's say they say 3 o'clock, you can bring your inspector and you're going to be able to inspect the RV. You know, the inspector a lot of times is charging you by the hour, and a lot of these dealers, they don't like you bringing an inspector, so they might pretend like there's a confusion. Oh, we have to roll it out and bring it to the hookup, and then the guy is waiting. Now it's going to cost you more money because it's more time. You've got to confirm and make sure the morning of that they've already rolled the RV. They're rolling it out at a certain time. You need to call and confirm, so when the inspector gets there, the RV is already on the hookups and ready to be inspected, because a lot of times they play these games with you. So you know, you end up getting just frustrated and just forgetting about it, or the inspector just overlooks certain things because everybody's just frustrated at that point. Find out if you can be reimbursed, because it's going to cost you $350 to have this inspector, and now this inspector is costing you money because he said he was going to give you 2 hours of your time or 3 hours, and now this is taking way longer. Who's going to reimburse you for that commitment that you had with the inspector? That's something that you need to ask, and get that in writing in your contract as well. Ask your dealer if they do delivery. The dealer that I went to, the Optimum RV, they do not deliver RVs. You have to go through a third party. They say that they know people who will do it, and they can find people. I'm sure they're going to get some money for that as well. So be very cautious, because just because you're buying an RV doesn't mean that they're going to deliver it to your house or anywhere that you need it to go. Private seller, this is my preferred way to go, is with the private seller, because with the private seller, I can compare prices online and I can see if it's a good value. And when I come there, it's usually going to be a lower price. Some people are a little bit crazy, so those kind of people you just have to walk away from and just go to the ones that you know your budget is there, the amount that they're asking for is the right type of price for it. You're able to do the comparisons yourself. Yes, you do have to drive to certain areas and a lot of places before you find something, but stick to the model that you like. Go out and go to RV shows and see what kind of models that you like, and write those down. And perhaps you can't afford a 2026 or 2025, but maybe you can go back and buy a 2019 that's similar up to that model, and it's in good condition. And a lot of times people in Florida especially, they leave their rigs down here because they live up north, and then they fly down and then they live in their RVs. And a lot of these RVs don't have a lot of damages or anything. They haven't even lived in them, basically. That's what happened with us with the fifth wheel. We got really lucky because the fifth wheel was just some people that lived up north, and they just came down, and they were only in it a couple of months during the year. And then they decided that they wanted to move into a park model when they came down, so they decided to sell it to us. A lot of times when you buy from the seller, they'll give you all the extras. You don't get that with the dealer. Usually when the dealer buys it from the seller, they strip it of everything. I mean, if there's hoses in there, if there's sewer connections, if there's electronics that they want to give you, trust me, the dealer strips it and you get nothing. But when you're buying from the seller, they'll give you lots of the stuff, especially if they don't want an RV anymore. They'll pretty much give you everything unless they decide to sell it on the marketplace. But most people, they just want to get rid of it. And sometimes they've already accounted for that in the price that they're offering. Good option if you're starting out, because you can get a lot of extras from the seller in that way. The thing with the seller, there's going to be no overhead cost. You're going to be able to negotiate with them. You're going to avoid all the sales pressure tactics that dealers use. Flip side of all of that, there's going to be no warranties that you're going to get most likely. And you've got to do the inspection and the paperwork yourself like I did. I had to do my own bill of sale in order to hold it. I had to make sure that I'd left a deposit and how was deposit going to be done. And I had to do a contract stating that I was leaving them the deposit and all of the terms and conditions for the deposit at the time. So you want to be able to have a seller that you can talk to and understands everything and agrees to everything. Because if you have a difficult seller that doesn't agree to a lot of terms, it's not going to be successful. You might as well just walk away from it. Some sellers may still owe on their RV, so that's something that you need to ask if it's free and clear. Do they have the title? And if you have to go through the way where the seller needs the cash in order to pay off the lien and then give it to you, you need to have a contract that specifies that in the contract. You might want to actually work with an attorney on something like that, because there is a lien involved. And once the person gets the money has to be transferred over to the bank that's holding the lien so that you can get title. So usually something like that, I would want to hire an attorney for some kind of a situation where the seller, he's really motivated. He wants to get rid of it, but he's still got the lien. He's got to pay. So you can usually work things out with them. They want to sell it for whatever, the lien is at the point, and they're not willing to make any money off of it. You can really get some good deals like that. But if I were you, I'd really think about hiring an attorney to do that for you. Make sure your deposit contract states that you're having an inspection, the time of the inspection, the person that's inspecting, that you are going to be present, how long you're going to be there approximately, and that they will reimburse you if they don't show up or anything happens where the seller is the one that causes the issue with the inspection. That has to be in the contract, because the last thing you want to do is pay somebody $350 to come to inspect an RV and the seller didn't show up. He doesn't have it on hookups. He's giving you a lot of problems about what is going to be inspected, or he doesn't have propane for the inspection. He could tell you that, or there's no water in there and you have to check the water. It's not on the hookups. All of these things have to be specified in the contract if you're going to have an inspection done. Fortunately, I was able to do my pre-inspection because the fifth wheel that I purchased was already on the hookup, so I was able to see that, there was no leaks in it and everything looked good. I went through it all the way around. Measure the RV. A lot of people are wrong about the size. They might tell you that it's a 38-foot RV and it's actually a 35, and you won't know that until you actually have the title. The title will tell you the length on that. So you want to make sure, because if you're comparing one model, it has a certain value for a 35 and there's a different value for a 40, you want to be able to know that you're paying the right price for that particular model in the size that you're getting. You also want to make sure that you have the mileage of the RV, that the title has the VIN number is correct. You want to do this in your pre-inspection. The last thing you want to do is pay for an inspector, and then they come in and they do that work for you, and then they realize this is not the title for this, or there's no title. So these are all things that you need to ask before you actually go out and have an inspector come and check this for you, because then you just lost money on the inspection. Maintenance records, that's another thing that you want to find out. Do they have maintenance records, and can you show me the maintenance? What was the last thing that was done? With my Damara, there are several things that I have to get done here because the young guy didn't do all of the maintenance that was required at the 60-mile marker. And those are things that I have to do this winter, is get it to my mechanic to do, like, I think it was radiator flush, and it's got to have like transmission, and I think the brake also liquid, things like that I have written down that I have to get done. So make sure that you try to get at least maintenance records. And if they don't have any and they don't know, that tells you also that they're not really keeping good records on this. And who knows when was the last time this was done. So be prepared and take that into account when you're purchasing and you're making your offer. If you're buying a truck camper, most times you don't get a title with that. And you need to get a bill of sale if you're buying a truck camper. Make sure that you both sign it, that you have the number, and you specify exactly what model and everything that you're getting. Ask about the tires, and you want to inspect, you want to learn, you want to do your own inspection of the tires as well, and you want to ask how long it's been sitting as well. You want to be able to test drive it as well. Take it for a ride, drive it around, see what it is, listen to any noises, bring somebody with you also, because you're going to be busy driving and talking with the owner who's sitting next to you, so somebody can be behind you in the vehicle listening for any noises. If you need it delivered, you might want to ask the seller if they're willing to deliver it. Sometimes they will on Marketplace. They will deliver it for you, and you're going to want to put that in the contract as well. Okay, you're also going to ask the seller if they're going to leave you any warranties, manuals, and of course the service records, if you'll be able to keep copies of all of that. Before you drive it away, the day that you're purchasing it, before you drive it or test drive it, make sure the propane is shut off. The vents are closed, and make sure that you're safe on the road when you're testing it out. Sometimes people forget that they have this stuff on because it's been parked for a while, so you want to make sure that you check all of this. If you're buying an older one, make sure that you check the propane tank, especially if you're buying like a truck camper like I did. You want to make sure that the propane tanks are only good for 10 years on some of those propane tanks that are removable, so you want to make sure that they have been certified after the 10 years, because if not, you won't be able to fill them anywhere until you get them certified, and that's going to cost you some money and time. Finally, if you did decide to buy this RV from either the seller or the dealer, because you remember, if you're not buying directly, you want to be able to have a GPS tracker in your RV, somewhere hidden in your RV. When you're getting the delivery, you want to be able to put it in there. If you're having delivery of the RV, remember to ask for all of the costs that are associated with any road emergencies. So if the dealer is doing the delivery for you, make sure that you ask them and have that in the contract about the delivery and who's going to pay for these costs if there's any flats or damages on the way to your property. Make sure that you have a license plate for the delivery person that's pulling your vehicle. Which is better? The dealers, they're giving you convenience, and the sellers are giving you saving. It really comes down to what matters to you most. The peace of mind of keeping your cash in your pocket is the one that I choose. For me, I'm always going to lean towards dealing directly with the seller. But whichever way you go, remember to always look for water damage and ask for the maintenance records. And that's going to give you some idea of what they've been doing with that RV. Thanks for watching this video, and let me know in the comments which way is your preferred way. Bye. Sika, I can't do a video with you, and you need to calm down. How am I going to do videos when I go on the road if you're always talking and making noise? You gotta sit over there nice and quiet. Sit and be quiet, okay? No, you gotta sit and be quiet. I'm gonna get my video done. You keep talking all the time. What? Oh, okay. I'll be there in a minute. I was.